to the channel. My name is Kaitlyn and I am an American who is learning to live down under in beautiful Sydney, Australia. I have been out of home isolation for a little over a week now, and in this last week I've had some really weird culture shocks. They're such small things, but I really wanted to document what it's like moving overseas and learning to live in Australia from an expat's perspective. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first thing, and this is really small honestly, but hearing ads with Australian accents. I heard it on the radio plenty of times when I was taking Ubers last time I was here, but this is the first time where I was really watching YouTube videos and the ads had Australian accents. Something about that hit me in a way of, oh my god, I'm here, I'm actually in Australia. Like, it was just one of those bizarre moments in the last week where I'm like, I am really here. This is finally here. This is happening. And it's one of those weird shocks that you get when you first move abroad. A couple of those moments that come up where you're like, this is real. This isn't planning anymore. This isn't thinking about it, dreaming about it. I'm here. And one of the times that comes up is when I hear ads on YouTube channels with Australian accents. Something that's been kind of weird for me to adjust to in the mornings is birds chirping in the morning. And it's not like I didn't hear birds in the morning when I was in the States. When I was in the States, it was basically just your sparrowish kind of birds chirping around. Once in a while you might hear a crow, but that was all I really heard. Over here in Australia, the birds around here have such unique sounds between them. It's not just morning chirping. You hear all these different types of bird noises first thing in the morning. It's kind of incredible. Australia has so many species of birds anyway, but to hear all of these different noises was something that I had never expected to hear over here in Australia. But hearing like lorikeets and miners outside my door first thing in the morning, like sometimes I wake up and I feel like I'm living in the beginning of like a Disney princess movie with all of these birds chirping outside. I know it sounds totally weird and bizarre and cliche, but hearing all of these bird noises first thing in the morning is so interesting and has been such a shock first thing in the morning. Now, the next weird thing I've had to adjust to in this first week is money. And again, I've been in Australia before. This isn't my first time here, but I didn't have a ton of experience with it when I was over here the first time. I was only here for a few weeks. One of the weirdest things about the money is that in America, obviously all the bills are green. They look pretty much the same when you open up your wallet. Whereas over here in Australia, the bills are different colors depending on the amount of the bill. And they're different sizes too. This is so strange to me, but it's strange in a great way. Like, I think it's such a better system than what America has. I love that Australia does not have pennies. I think that is absolutely brilliant. I am so glad that I will never have a penny in my wallet again. I hope you're enjoying this short little video. Please hit the like and subscribe button down below to join our little Amer-Australian family, where I post weekly about the differences between American and Australian cultures and the overall process of what it's like to live as an expat here in Sydney, Australia. Now, this was a COVID thing, and I know I'm not going to get political about this. I know a lot of people hate it. I know some people love it, but it's scanning into systems everywhere I go. Scanning before I go into a shop, remembering to check out, getting that wonderful little notice from Service New South Wales 2 hours later if I forgot to check out, then having to think, okay, well, approximately what time did I leave? Let me put that in so that way I can check out. It's been a little bit of a headache and a bit of a hassle. Where I was in the States, we didn't have any kind of scan-in system like this. So having to scan in every single time I need to stop into a Kohl's or a bank or a 7-Eleven, it's a little overwhelming to somebody who isn't used to this, to somebody who has never had to scan in before. This is something that is totally new, and honestly, personally, I hope it's not going to stay for very long. So, editor Kaitlyn here. At the time I was filming this, QR codes were still needed in New South Wales, and of course at the time I'm editing this, that's no longer the case. I think a lot of us don't want it to stay for very long, but overall this has been a bit of a shock adjusting to my first week here in Australia. This is something I totally took for granted over in the States, and that is having to read the labels over here when I go grocery shopping. If I was in the States, I would know what the different labels are, I know the different brands, I know if I want some type of bread, I'll just go over, pick up a bag of like Sara Lee bread, throw it in my cart, not even have to read it. It's almost like your brain doesn't register it because you've been around it for so long. And I come over here to Australia and the type of milk is different than what it's named in the States. The cheeses are different than what it is in the States. So if I'm looking through some stuff at the grocery store and the label seems weird to me, I have to sit there and read it and figure out what in the world this stuff is. Like, we went to the deli counter, the meat counter, and I'm looking at every single label because I am so confused. Like, first off, in a lot of delis in the States, they don't pre-cut and pre-slice things. So we bought a few pieces of pastrami for sandwiches. They had like 3 pieces already cut on the counter. I'm like, where's the actual like loaf of pastrami that they're going to go and put on the slicer and actually slice it up like they do in the States? Having those out in the open isn't something that is here in Australia. In America, you go to a deli counter and nothing's already sliced. Like, they have to actually take the actual bit of cheese or meat and put it on the slicer and do it in front of you. Over here in Australia, if you only need a few pieces and it's pre-sliced, they're going to grab it out of the fridge, whack it into some paper, and give it to you that way. There's so many weird, bizarre little quirks that I'm still adjusting to. Now, I know it's going to take some time, but having to read all of the labels of what I'm picking up, what I'm buying over here in Australia has been a bit of a shock. It is something I know I will adjust to and get used to, but this is something that with just my first week in Australia has been a little bit of a surprise. And this one I know a lot of people laugh at, but the last thing on this list is driving on the other side of the road. I don't have my license yet. I'm not actually the one driving. My partner is the one driving when we go out. But being on the other side of the road is bizarre, not even just when you're driving, but crossing the street. This morning, I took a bus for the first time over to my new job in the CBD, and I'm standing here looking down the street to my left for like a good 5 minutes waiting for this bus to come. I hadn't even had my morning coffee yet. This is how half asleep I was. And then I realized the traffic isn't going this way. The traffic is going the other way. So if I want to see the bus come this way, I have to be looking this way in order to actually see the bus coming down the street. Common sense. But this is something that I'm so not used to. First thing in the morning, I'm used to traffic going the other way in the States. So I'm used to sitting there kind of looking towards the left a little bit, waiting for traffic to come this way. It's so strange how something so small and so insignificant has been such a shock this first week. And I can only imagine what it'll be like when I learn how to drive over here. Oh, heaven help everybody who is on the road, because I'm not used to driving in the first place. So learning to drive a manual, which I never driven before, on the other side of the road in a new country, this is going to be a bit of a challenge. Overall, with cars driving on the other side of the road is something that I've had to adjust to, not just as a passenger in a car, but also as a pedestrian. So that is it for this video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. Join our little Amer-Australian family. I post weekly about the differences between American and Australian cultures and the overall process of learning to live abroad as an expat here in Sydney, Australia. My name is Kaitlyn, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.